First of all, I really want to thank Dr. Pachauri for this opportunity. I want to compliment Terry, North America here, for hosting this fourth India Energy Summit to emphasize the importance of solving energy access for everyone while mitigating climate change. Dr. Pachauri and I have known each other for over 30 years. When I started my work in telecom in Rajiv Gandhi era, he and I started this dialogue. I have benefited from his friendship, and it is good to see that he is continuously pushing this very important agenda. To me, there is a lot to learn from telecom in energy. So I'm just going to focus narrowly on the lessons that I have learned in telecom, which I believe are going to be very critical for energy security. And somehow, these lessons don't get the kind of attention it should get. I've been in telephone business for about 47 years. And when we started conversion from electromechanical to electronic to digital, the cost per line remained for 30 years at $1,100 a line. We added more features and functionalities, computers and software and stored program control, but the cost never changed. And as a result, it took us about 110 years to get billion telephones. And it became sort of a luxury for the top of the economic pyramid for a long time. Our work in India in 80s focused on access to telephones as opposed to telephone density, because the cost structure was very different then. All of a sudden, with the entry of mobile technology, the cost went down from $1,100 a line to $800 to $500 to $400, and when it got to about 80, instantly number of telephones changed from billion to 6 billion. So the key message there for us was affordability, scalability, and sustainability go hand in hand when you are addressing the challenge of the bottom of the economic pyramid. In the process, all utilities were broken up systematically everywhere in the world. It started with US in 1984. AT&T was split. Deregulation, privatization, technology, innovations, entrepreneurship were the key drivers in telecom. In the process, old companies died, new companies got created, and the whole industry has gone through massive transformation. My generation in 60s could not think of Bell Labs disappearing altogether. My generation could not think of Western Electric not existing in telecom. Northern Telecom, all of these companies are gone. Lot merged, and new telecom companies got created that no one had ever heard of. Google, Cisco, Juniper, now Facebook, Twitter. These are all telecom companies. I'm told that energy companies invest, or energy sector invest close to 4% on R&D. Biotech invests 20%, defense 12%, and telecom probably close to 12%, 10%. So unless and until we look at energy sector more like telecom, I don't see substantial change. Everyone, I believe, is focused on incremental change because everyone wants to hold on to this monopolistic utility mindset. And I'm sure they have their reasons. We had ours in telecom as well until '84. I'm also told that 80% of the energy is lost between source and use. Seems like a big number. But if it is true, there is no way out but to go to distributed energy. We also learned that distributed technology in telecom is the only way to scale. So when you look at all these towers, it is distributed switching, distributed control. In '60s, we all designed mega switches like number 4 ESS, where hundreds of thousands of lines came to one location. And now, everything is distributed. So when I look at power industry, I see a lot of similarities. And I see huge opportunity to innovate. There are 7 broad areas that I look at where there are low-hanging fruits today. Auto, buildings, industries, lighting, smart grid and storage, IT, and transport. There's no sense in going through all the numbers, but there are all kinds of numbers available as to each sector in terms of usage and in terms of carbon dioxide emission. Sometimes you wonder whether you need 3,000-pound car to move 200-pound human being. But that's the design we have created. Unless and until we begin to question some very fundamentals in energy sector, I don't think we will see substantial change in the next couple of decades. Just to give an example, we heard about superconductors 20 years ago. We were all excited about superconductors. We thought this is going to solve a lot of problems associated with losses. 20 years down the road, there is very little in the field to really show. Whether it is superconductor transformer, which I believe is going to change the face of energy sector, or superconductor to carry 100,000 volts from point A to point B. 20 years is a long time. If telecom guy had 20 years to look at something like this, I can assure you the results would be very different. Somehow, there is a huge need to change the mindset. There are 2.7 billion meters. What kind of meters are these? How many of these meters have microprocessors and chips and controls? And not that the meters have to be very smart. You know, we started in India Smart Grid Task Force and Smart Grid Forum. Immediately the mind was to really import a lot of these fancy meters. And I said, look, the Indian problems are very different. 40% or 35% goes into leakage. Can we really design a meter which focuses on leakage? So rather than expensive smart meter, what we need is an inexpensive, sophisticated technology to really tap leakage. And you can do that with probably $30 meter and not $300 smart meter. But all of these things require thinking outside the box. In India right now, as part of the public information infrastructure, we are looking at connecting 250,000 panchayats to optical fiber. We have already connected 1,500 nodes with 40 gigabit bandwidth to connect all of our universities, R&D labs, libraries, and all of that. These two networks will cost us about $10 billion for connectivity. In addition, we are putting together now platforms for UID, GIS, cybersecurity, data centers, applications, payment. When you add all of these, we have some total 10,000 software people today in the government working on public information infrastructure. We will spend about $20 billion to really build public information infrastructure. Is there a way to use that for power industry, energy sector? How do we ride on this public information infrastructure to really take advantage of IT in energy? I think there are lots and lots of opportunity, not just low-hanging fruits in auto and buildings and industry and IT and all, but it requires change in the mindset. I know that there is a lot of solar conversation, and I've heard it for the last 35 years, believe me. We've been waiting for solar to be cost effective, and we are still waiting. I don't care what anybody else says. If you take away government subsidies, it's not very easy to justify solar even today. And I know it, we know it. But can we really look at solar paint as opposed to solar panel? I mean, that's the kind of thinking telecom people would ask for. Can we really think completely out of the box and look at Firefly and see, can we break the code and light up all the trees? We know that the energy we receive from sun amounts to 75,000 million megawatts. And we use less than probably 40 million megawatts. How do we harness that? Ultimate advantage is going to come from technology, innovation, entrepreneurship, new business models, new financing opportunities, and new partnerships between India and US, between various industry sectors. And I think journey has yet to begin in many ways. So I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about some of these things, but I thought it'll be a good opportunity to really talk a little bit about the telecom experience. I think telecom has changed the face of India. In '81, when I started my work, we had 2 million phones. It used to take 15 years to get telephone connection. And just in short span of 20 years, we are a nation of a connected billion. We have 900 million phones. And I believe first phase of the telecom revolution is beginning to end. And the second phase of telecom revolution with broadband is now being unfolded. Wait for another 10 years and you will really see what telecom can do to our education, our agriculture, governance, health, and hopefully power sector. With this, I want to once again thank Dr. Pachauri and Terry for giving me this opportunity. I had lots of points I wanted to make, but since this is a brief opening remark, I thought I'd just make one major point on innovation, telecom, and all of that, and hope we can pick it up later on. Thank you.